Radio Zero.
It's Radio Zero with Rick and Rose. That's very loud.
The fade. Yeah, something was not right.
I'm going to send 200 stars to see my comment here. This is really great. Okay, so yeah, welcome to Radio Zero for Friday, June 16th. The year is 2023.
You can subscribe to the
believe that.
podcast on Apple, Spotify, go to radiozero.us, Google Podcasts. We're live streaming on Facebook on the Radio Zero page and on the Poster Children page, on Twitch at PCJC USA, and on the Poster Children YouTube channel, 4 p.m. every other Friday. Seems like it's happening again. We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
You can patronize us at patreon.com/radiozero. Thank you for everyone who is donating through Patreon. I don't have my show announcements. We have a show. Criminy, I should get this up here right now. Poster Children shows Madison Friday, June 23rd at the High Noon Saloon with Howler and Vom Bomb. June 24th, Saturday, June 24th, Normal, Illinois. Make Music Normal. That's free.
We're
music.
headlining.
There's music both Friday and Saturday, all day Saturday, and we're playing at 9 p.m. It's in Uptown Normal, middle of town.
Free. Take the train to get here. But go see our other shows, too, that you have to pay for.
And we're playing in Cudahy, near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, July 15th at the X-Ray Arcade with Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends and Delicious Monsters. Tickets for the Madison and Milwaukee shows there are ticket links up on posterchildren.com. All right. Anything else? Yeah. Okay. That's it.
I just got a message from Sweetwater on how to Avid PT Pro. Oh.
Did they just get bought?
I think we're a Pro Tools firm now.
Okay.
Holy shit. Not a sponsor.
All right.
It's hard to buy software. Like, we have money to buy software because we have an audio music production. I know I'm just totally hijacking the situation here. You were going to say something. But we have this great audio and music production sequence at Illinois State University, but it's hard to buy software because you have to be careful that software doesn't, take your students' information and try to sell them things and stuff. So we have to fill out all kinds of paperwork, and it looks like we just got authorized to buy some software.
Great.
What were you going to say?
I don't know. I was going to say a lot's happened in the past week or so.
Seasons 1, 2, and 3 have happened for me. That's what's happened for me. Wait, am I in season 3 or season 4? I'm on season 4 now, right? Now I have to look.
Yeah, Rose has decided after 6 years of not watching Succession.
Wow,
or 5 years, all of a sudden decided after it finished to start watching it.
Why wouldn't you decide then? That's the best time to watch it, and I'm going to watch Happy Days too. Oh,
so apparently, Henry Winkler was a water skiing instructor at camp when he was a kid, and that had something to do with
jumping the shark.
The shark, yeah.
Phil Seidner says 0 stars, and I think that was my send 200 stars to see your comment here. Thing. And then Conan says woo, or is he saying who? WH with 4 O's after it with an exclamation point. Who? But I think that's because we're playing with Conan Neutron. He's saying woo. I don't think you need the H there. It's not. These are not. Did you take elocution? No, is that what it's called? Remember I was saying how long before no actors on TV are going to say, whom would you, what was the word that somebody had said? It was somebody older in some kind of a TV show said the what. instead of what. Mark DeFazio says, hope to see you in Madison. And Conan says, make it abnormal and normal. See, that would work too. Kim Jameson says hi with a little avatar. It's very cute. And nobody's on the Radio Zero. There's only 2 people on the Radio Zero site, Facebook site. And there's probably other comments, other places that I can't see them. Oh, he did take speech therapy for speaking too fast as a kid. Thanks, Sagan, I podcast. There's a lot to unwrap there, and you can do that on Conan Neutron's podcast. Where were we? Pro Tools? Not a sponsor?
God. Yeah, no. In rumors are that it's being bought again, but we'll see.
Oh, Pro Tools?
Yeah.
By us. We bought it. Oh.
What do you want to talk about? Who do you want to talk about first?
I want to talk about... Oh, did people die?
The Unabomber died?
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Hi, Joe. Joe Crispin says hi. All right. So better get on... Well, I better get on the Succession bandwagon. Okay, Kim. So, yeah. If I'm watching it, anybody can watch it. I've made it through. Now, this is one of those, like, I thought it was one of those, like, real white people shows. Like, what's that other show with the other dad that was in the jail and stuff like that? What's the other one?
Arrested Development?
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah,
a lot of white
show.
people. I can't watch. It's hard for me to watch them because the camera people think they're cool by, like, zooming around and stuff like that. So Succession doesn't do that as much, I've noticed.
I actually, when we were rewatching a couple episodes, Bag Boy and myself were watching it with you.
Yeah.
I noticed a huge amount of camera movement. There's lots of zooming in and out. I was like, oh man, they're doing that on this show.
Yeah, but not nowhere near as bad as on the other one. But there are times when you notice it, like they'll just be on, like, what's the guy's name, Logan, and then like somebody will have asked them a question, and then they'll just pan a little bit in or zoom a little in, like it's not. It's really funny because I'm like, it's funny. It's like the camera is giving you some input. Like the camera has its own.
Yeah.
The camera is its own character.
That's actually what I was reading or listening to Sidney Lumet. Lumet, right? Do you pronounce it?
I've heard
Lumet
it both
or Lumet?
ways.
Yeah, I think it's Lumet.
I have heard Lumet.
He did. He actually did say that. It's a book from 1995 or something, but he did say the camera.
Oh.
There are 3 characters in the scene, and I believe he does say the camera is another character. Which I feel like even then was a little trite, but yeah, definitely.
So it's like a Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Right? You got your camera is like mediating or affecting. It's just how much is the camera going to affect? Well, I mean, then the camera is already affecting what you're seeing anyway. It's the gateway. It's the portal to what you get to see. But it's also affecting like how you see it even more than just, I don't know. Lumet, says Conan.
Regardless, I mean, he seems super focused on his cinematography, and that is, I mean, I have to say, I watched Prince of the City, which we can go into, but and it's like, I really feel like that's one of the weakest points, and it was an advantage, but yeah, he definitely has that 50s, 60s TV guy in film look to his. I guess Murder on the Orient Express looks good if I remember correctly.
So I gotta say, did you watch Network yet? I'll watch that with you.
Yeah, Network looks good. I don't know though. I gotta watch Network.
Speaking of Succession, so and The Verdict too.
Verdict looks good,
like
but it. Yeah.
When I was little, and by little I mean in college the first time, I remember Sidney Lumet. Sydney's, very important filmmaker and stuff. But these movies, like no one ever talks about these movies in front of me lately. But but I walked in on what were you watching? 12 Angry Men. I walked in on Rick watching 12 Angry Men, like in the middle of the night, instead of watching his usual Wild Wild West. What are you watching? Is it earlier episodes of Wild Wild West? No, I'm watching this because I'm listening to the Sidney Lumet book, or Lumet.
Well, it just happened to be on.
But and then yeah, it was on. Okay, but Rick's going, I don't get what's so important about this. I don't. This doesn't look any better than.
No,
anything.
I.
It wasn't that. Yeah, go on. Explain yourself.
That's not what I was saying.
Right.
I was just saying it does look like what it is, which is an actor's movie. Like, it's all about the performances and the actors in his movies. Kind of the origins in the theater. Visually, I don't think of him as a visually impressive director.
Yeah.
I think of him as an actor's director. So maybe that's what's going on in this book, is that he's overcompensating. He's like, but I'm also a visual director.
Right.
Really, I am. And it's like, I don't think you are. I think that's your weak spot. And he talks about it too. He talks about studying with someone to figure out color because he had such a problem with that transition too.
So yeah, but you may be right that he's overcompensating.
But and I got to watch Dog Day Afternoon again with this critical, my new critical perspective, but I feel like that's an advantage in Dog Day Afternoon.
You make the kids watch that with you. I think.
Yeah, they don't want to watch old movies.
Yeah,
I'll point out what part of
fail safe. Wow.
Yeah. What part of Failsafe influenced is referenced in what's it called? Oppenheimer next month. I'll go. Well, yeah, that's from Failsafe.
These poor kids, they what things get through to them? Because I was like, I'm watching 4 seasons of this fucking Succession show. I'm enjoying it, but I think there ought to be a little payback. So, and I was like, and I don't know why Local Hero. Oh no, yeah, because Peter Riegert is in Succession, and Rick comes in, he's like, do you know who that is? And I'm like, I don't, if my mom was on there, I wouldn't know who it was. I have face blindness, but Peter Riegert there, with the beard, like white, like doesn't look anything. Well, he looks like himself now. Now I can't unsee it. But then I was like, oh,
totally sounds like him.
Like Local Hero, yeah, totally sounds same voice. Local Hero was my self-proclaimed favorite movie for, a good 20 years. It was between that and Apocalypse Now. And then, I saw Scott Pilgrim, and then I started wondering if there was something wrong with me. And, because I liked that movie too. But then I was like, oh, I should make Bag Boy watch Local Hero. And then I got his okay on it. He's like, yeah, I might watch that. And I'm like, because I watched that when I was his age. Or I watched Gregory's Girl, right? And laughed about, we were like, oh man, this is so cool. It's so weird But
it was a contemporary film at the time you watched it.
Yeah.
The thing.
So I'm like, I got everybody to agree. And then I figured, the little one always wants to watch, oh, I can watch Succession too. Yeah, you can. Yeah, okay. I think you're going to find it boring. But then I was like, oh, he can watch that movie too. And I really love the ending of Local Hero. I love it. I think it is a tour de force movie. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I can't like that phone noise. And then we were talking about talk radio because he was listening to that. The kid was listening to that song. Dude. It's so funny because there's a phone ringing at the end of Local Hero, So I had all these thoughts going around in my head about how, selling off a company or not deciding whether or not an old man being in,
and Eric Bogosian was in the earlier season of Succession too.
Yes, and he's in that movie too, Talk Radio. So I had all these thoughts going around in my mind to try to, how you try to get your family to do something like this, and then what came out of my mouth, out of this huge meat grinder of all these different thoughts, was there's a mermaid in it. And Local Hero. There's
a mermaid in it. Yeah, that's an interesting. There's also there's a Doctor Who in it. I'll let you figure that out.
In Local Hero?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the little pipsqueak guy who's got all the...
Actually, And then on top
more
of it,
than one, right?
and he was in the thick of it, right? And Jesse Armstrong.
All right. See, Conan's
Yeah.
writing. Oh wait, I've asked
There's
Conan.
all sorts of
Wait.
crossovers, actually, between.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, right. So Conan said Network is one of my favorite films of all time. And then I wrote why, and so he wrote. Well,
No,
no,
you
but I
wrote
want to know
why.
God damn it! And then he wrote Network is an incredible dark comedy that was prescient about almost everything to do with media. Absolutely insane, great performances all around. And he also is saying Local Hero is a remarkable film. Saw it for the first time 2 years ago. Love it. One of Peter Capaldi's first films, and the actor that plays Wedge is in it. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
I can't remember that.
What's his name's uncle?
Got us.
Ewan McGregor's uncle is in it.
Yeah, I feel like I want to watch it again, and then we're going to be watching it, and like the kids are going to be online, and
It's probably
like, you know what
it'll
it
probably
is?
be too slow for them.
Yeah, you know what it is though.
What's interesting is Network. Sidney Lumet's talking about Network, and he seems to think he had a fun time with Patty Chayefsky. Had no problem with him, which is completely the opposite of Ken Russell.
Maybe ChatGPT wrote this or what is it, autobiography?
It's from 1990 something.
So then it didn't.
It's old.
It could be. It just have to be before 2012.
That's because Sidney Lumet insists that he respects the writer. So yeah, that's what's wrong. That's why he's just a guy who likes writers and actors, and that's not normal for a director.
Yeah. Let me ask you this about the ebook that you're listening to.
Yes,
How is the delivery?
it's good. They got some rando guy doing a voice that's not. It's not him. It's not the man himself.
Because what did I listen to last? I listened to like Neuromancer or something like that because I didn't want to reread it again. And then as I was listening to it, I was like horrified at how much of my life like it probably changed, into the fact that like I think I wrote sentences. I talked about this already in my book. Like the sky was the color of a television. I wrote that in my tour reports and stuff. But while I was reading the reviews before I bought it with my $15 of Audible that I've been spending for 2 years, and I have like 40 credits built up now. Not a sponsor.
How much do you get paid for these commercial
Not
placements?
a sponsor. I really have so many credits. I should be listening to books instead of watching Succession. But I read just read people complaining about the narrator for Neuromancer. Just like it's impossible, almost impossible to listen to.
So that's the thing, is for these older books.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to. I mean, it's kind of like reissuing an old record or something. It's like there's got to be enough
Money
people and interest, and someone's got to pay to. Yeah.
Not ever again, though, because we can just have Grimes do it.
Right,
Grimes
right.
Can read
well,
it.
that's the thing.
I don't know who Grimes is, but I know that they did an AI version of its voice.
Yeah.
I should probably find out what Grimes is before I teach music business.
And so the whole that was the weirdest thing the other day is watching Prince of the City, listening to the Sidney Lumet book. And I was like, I got to watch Prince of the City, and then I was like watching it and like, I wonder what's up with Treat Williams, because Treat Williams is the star of that. And then
right.
I do my usual search as I'm watching a movie. It's like, oh, what's he been in lately? And
You killed him.
Treat Williams dead. It's like he had, his
You
death
distracted him.
It was like
on his
announced.
motorcycle.
Yeah, it was creepy. It was weird and creepy. But yeah, I posted about this. But yeah, we saw Treat Williams once in New York. It might have been our first time in New York City on tour. One of the earliest times.
Yeah, one of the earlier times.
Just walking down the street, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's that guy I know. And kind of looked at him, and he looked at me, and we had this like weird moment. And then all of a sudden, I was like, oh no, that's Treat Williams. That's not a person I know. And then I think I went from like, hey, dude, like look like, hey, it's someone I know, to like fear or shock, like terror
It was
almost.
yeah, because
he
you
had-
used to get Rick used to get like the weather woman. If he saw her in the jewel, he'd like have a heart attack.
Yeah,
he'd get
I
real
do have a
giggly.
weird reaction to people who are on.
He just gets starstruck.
Yeah, it's
Anybody who he's
it's
seen on a
more
screen.
like cognitive dissonance when someone's not where they're supposed to be. it freaks me out because that's I am
Yeah.
very context oriented.
Yeah.
So if somebody shows up out of context in a place they're not supposed to be or where I've known them, it really flips me out.
And then Treat Williams like saw Rick's face and then like decided not to come up to him and go, "Hey, are you Rick from Poster Children?"
No, it wasn't. Yeah, no, it was just like it was a weird interaction where it was like he's just randomly walking down the street, and then it was like almost like, oh, hey, it was almost like, oh, do I know that person? Or how do I know that person moment? And then it was like I realized, no, that's a famous person, and he realized this is just somebody who recognized me, kind of thing. It was super weird. It was
you should
a super
write a book
weird
about
moment.
that. You should write a whole like.
No, I think this is enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, he died. I saw him in Hair. I had a crush on him in Hair.
I saw Hair too. That was. I mean, it's
Hair
weird.
2.
Hair. There was a sequel, wasn't there? They did make a second movie, didn't they?
It was tragic. He dies at the end.
Hey, wow. Hair
Spoilers.
spoiler.
No, I meant he died just now.
Yeah, and I watched that in the theater. I saw that in the theater. You did too. I really liked that movie too, but from what I remember, it was not a successful film.
No.
Probably because it came out in 1979, right? Was not the
Why would
best
we have
timing.
gone to see that? I think we would have gone to see it because it was a musical.
Milos Forman directed it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who was the cinematographer?
Oh, let's see.
Yeah, look that up.
Miroslav I can't pronounce his name. He's the guy who did he's the guy who did Amadeus. I watched Amadeus a while ago.
Rick was all
it's
on.
pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so
Lucky
Stephen-
Man.
Stephen-
He did yeah. He's he's Milos's guy.
Stephen Williams says that, quote, "people out of place," unquote, thing sounds like the time I saw my doctor at the liquor store.
Exactly. It's super weird and
great.
upsetting. And well, that happened the other day, right? Is like seeing someone. Yeah, we went to the coffee shop. Like this was we went to Jimmy John's, and this was it was about a month ago with the faculty and everything. And then there were a bunch of other people there from school that are recognized. I was like, oh yeah, there's that person. And then another person showed up. And then I'm like, oh my God, who's that? Why do I know that person? And then I finally realized it's somebody who works at the post office.
Across the street.
It was like,
Yeah, right across the street.
Okay, I don't actually, I see them
It must
often,
be.
but I don't know who they are.
So you're having the fact that you can look at a person's face and recognize who they are. That's like having perfect pitch for me. It's
And
because somebody play. The kids were laughing because they're like, how long does it take you to figure out what the note is? And I'm like, it's instantaneous. And they play a note, and I'd be like, they go dun, and I'd be like E flat, really really fast, and they were laughing and laughing. But you can do that with faces.
I can't though. The problem is that I mean I'm being haunted by someone that I can't. It doesn't make sense that it's the person who I thought it was, but then I might have to go or email someone and ask them if this was actually the person who I thought it was, because it's driving me crazy.
But for me, I can't. I have no idea who anybody is ever. Like, but if they told me their phone number, I could probably memorize it, like their social security number. I know people's email addresses. I always could remember that, but like I can't. Your face, I don't know. I think. Well, I'm not going to go into that. I've decided I have ADHD or ADD.
Doesn't everybody?
I know everybody does. Okay. What's that? Who else died?
Unabomber. And I didn't realize he killed himself. I didn't realize that. I know he was old.
Wow, it took him that long?
Yeah. Well, he's sick.
Why don't you give us a
So, well,
Remind us about the
graduate of the Chicago Public Schools at 16, so back in the old days. So this is somebody of my parents' generation in the Chicago Public Schools. They didn't have advanced classes. They just move you up. Like, for instance, my mom graduated high school a year earlier. They just would move you. And the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, graduated Chicago Public Schools when I guess when he was 15, and then went to Harvard directly.
what did he go to study?
One of the stories, math, I think, I would assume he's a mathematician. My parents' college friends, when they found the Unabomber and they had the big Time magazine layout about him, and then they had his high school photo, yearbook photo. They always do the yearbook photo thing when they talk about somebody's background. And my parents' college friend was right next to it was like he was so excited. He was like, "Hey, my high school picture's in there with Ted Kaczynski in Time magazine." And he also wrote, I'm trying to remember what he wrote, and it's like Ted just seemed like a normal smart kid. But we did have a chemistry teacher that liked to blow things up. It was like this guy, looking back at their past and their lives and like what might have caused this.
What turned him into a?
Because that's the thing is, they were all my parents, and then this guy, and then Ted Kaczynski were all products of Chicago Public Schools, and also were sort of advanced kids, and went on to college and everything, which was not normal or not as pop, or that wasn't happening as much.
So we're talking about
then.
the Unabomber here, and Rick is positing that perhaps it was the fact his upbringing in the Chicago Public Schools.
No, that's not it.
But and them not having accelerated courses and just moving a youngster up too fast.
Well,
let's continue on with his schooling, shall we? He went to Harvard.
He went to Harvard. He
Institution.
was 16.
Anything weird happened there?
Yeah, and so that was the thing, is he was one of the last cohorts of undergrads who were part of this research project. This maniac psychologist, researcher at Harvard, had worked with the OSS, the precursor to the CIA, was really interested in like interrogation. Similar, actually, probably was the person that made sure that Stanley Milgram didn't get into Harvard, wasn't allowed to. But like, for instance, was the mentor to Timothy Leary, and was all for Timothy Leary, dosing undergrads with LSD also. This guy was interested in interrogation and brainwashing, all that kind of stuff. And so Ted Kaczynski was part of a cohort of research subjects, basically. He got some money, and but the research sounded totally nuts, where it was basically like they'd have these sessions, and first off, they'd do these huge psychological profiles and talk to these kids about their lives and their fears and their sexual history or lack of history and all this kind of crazy stuff. And then they would go into this room with bright lights, and they were being filmed, and a person they said, you're going to have a conversation with this researcher, and then this person would just basically start screaming at them, kind of doing like interrogation type stuff and trying to break them down. And they were all wired up, and they were collecting data. And so that was Ted Kaczynski's experience as a 16-year-old freshman at Harvard. So first off, being one of the youngest kids there, being an introverted kid, and then on top of it being subjected to psychological testing. And so then
having to move to the East Coast from the Midwest too.
And there were people who said, were like telling Ted's dad, like, he's maybe a little too young to go off and go to college. And it was just like, no, he's one of the smartest kids in the world. So, it's like, he's going to go to Harvard. It was definitely, and some of the stuff I've read, it's like kind of denigrating the father for thinking that way, but that was just the way people were. Then it was like, like if you're a working class guy and your kid is graduating high school at 15 or 16 and going to Harvard, that's kind of an amazing
Anybody, even if you're not a
Leapfrog.
working class, like anybody, like that's a status thing. I
Totally.
was talking to my mom about that type
Yeah.
of thing. Just people like just how different it is. I wanted to say something about Real Genius. You know, there's like a nod to him, right? To Ted Kaczynski in Real Genius when
Well,
they're talking about.
I don't. When did his bombing start? I don't think. I think he was. Yeah, he was totally unknown when Real Genius happened.
Okay, never mind.
But yeah, there is that idea of the kid who's
Yeah.
super smart and going to college. Yeah.
Cracks under
like
pressure.
That. Yeah, totally. And what's interesting is, so I mean, and then he's obviously got other issues going on, but it's like nobody seems to want to talk about that kind of dark side of his history. They want to talk about all the other dark sides of his history, but it's like the whole Harvard experience and his. I think that's a formative thing when you're 16 years old, is to have guys in lab coats screaming at you and filming you and wiring you up and.
So you think that's what did it?
I think that contributes when 20 years later he's in a cabin building bombs that some of which are going to universities, right? and he's anti this whole military industrial, sort of modern society that we have, and wants to go back to nature and everything like that. It's kind of, I mean, there's at least, I think, seeds of some of those ideas planted, or that negative feeling. And so Bag Boy was watching Dairy King was watching a documentary on Ted Kaczynski, and they start talking about sexual stuff, and it's like they're trying to make him sound like Jeffrey Dahmer and John Gacy. And I started getting really upset, not because Ted Kaczynski's not evil, but it's like, I think he's a different type of evil, or a different type of terrorist, right? He's not and they were calling him a serial killer, and I guess he's a serial killer because he's sending off bombs and everything like that. But I think he was more of a terrorist, and his reaction was against the system. But it's like, you read the New York Times obituary, and it says, oh, he graduated high school, went to Harvard, then went to Berkeley, and then went into a cabin, and then he started building bombs. And it's like nothing about Harvard and why that was a problem. And then, all this shit about the FBI too. It's like, the FBI, you look at the FBI's website, and there's like, okay, well, what we decided to do was let the publication of his manifesto go out, so that maybe that would help us find, and get leads on who he is. Like, they totally reverse engineer, which is like another institution, not only Harvard, but also the Federal Bureau of Investigation was unable to find this guy for 20 years, completely unable to do that, what it's supposed to do, right? And put a huge amount of man hours in it. And the reason why they found out is because this guy blackmailed the New York Times and Washington Post to publish his manifesto, said, you know what, I'll stop killing people if you publish my manifesto. And then the New York Times and Washington Post did that. And then his sister-in-law read it and said, hey, to her husband, said, have you read this? This sounds a lot like the crap you say your brother writes to you. And then his brother reads it and goes, oh, yeah, that sounds like Ted. I'll call the FBI. That's how they caught him. And so it's like all these institutions. So
family turned him in, just like Succession.
Yeah, his fight against these systems, and these systems are flawed, right? And we know that. We know that all the crazy-ass psychological testing that was going on, that was military-based too, and this generation of researchers after the World War II, going into academia and doing all this crazy research without any kind of empathy or, care for human beings.
They were trying to get empathy. Yeah, that's how they could learn how to get empathy.
Exactly. And so that's a horribly damaged system. And then you've got the FBI, wasn't able to do what it was supposed to do. Basically, it was snitching. A snitch is how not a snitch. That's a terrible thing to say. But, it was just, I don't know. It frustrates me. And so then what I realized is, and then, to compare it to, so there are systemic problems with Jeffrey Dahmer and Gacy, right? But at the core of that, there were deep, it was individuals. They weren't fighting the system, right? They were actually working within the system. What those two people revealed is that, the system is flawed again, but it's flawed because these guys got away with heinous stuff because, people, basically if you were a gay serial killer, right, you could get away with it, right? Or you preyed on, either if you're a serial killer, you preyed on women or prostitutes or gay men, or boys, right? You would you could get away with it. That's another systemic flaw. But I feel like Ted Kaczynski is like Osama bin Laden. That's what I finally realized. It's like, here's another person who, you could call Osama bin Laden a serial killer, but he's not. He's kind of a terrorist, right? Is like using violence against a system he dislikes, and on top of it, it's the same frickin' system. Him and Ted Kaczynski were kind of fighting the same thing, and Osama bin Laden's whole history based on the United States military and his family's history building military bases and all that. It's the same kind of messed up thing where it's like it's a much more complex thing, and I'm not apologizing for these guys, but it's like a different type of it's terrorism and how people resort to violence or like systemic violence begets terrorist violence too, right? But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about how it's Harvard's fault or the CIA's fault or the American government's fault or it's not even fault. It's complicit, right? Ugh. They want it to be, Ted Kaczynski was a pervert. That's why he made bombs and sent them to universities.
A pedophile.
Yeah, it's
that I do. Yeah, every time somebody comes out gets called a pedophile, I'm always.
Well, I don't think that was happening with.
Yeah,
Ted
I know.
Kaczynski.
Yeah, but it's like always got to tie sex into it so people know it's bad.
Yeah. A very Puritan, individualistic way of looking at it, and it's like, but I don't think that's the case here. He's a terrorist. He's a freaking terrorist.
Yeah,
a radical.
Well, those are
violent radical.
Yeah. So those edifices are things that you're not going to be tearing down anytime soon. So Joe Chrisman says that Daniel Ellsberg, Pentagon Papers leaker, died today also.
Oh. Yeah, I just watched the Watergate burglars. What was it called?
The
Plumbers. Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed it. It was a little bit. If you've lived through that era and read that stuff, it's a little bit of a kind of greatest hits, and they're wedging a lot of G. Gordon Liddy stuff in there, just kind of cramming in it. By the way, I ate a rat, and it's just kind of like. Whereas you used to the way you heard about it 40 or 50 years ago was he was on a talk show and talked about eating a rat. Or Johnny Carson would make a joke about him eating a rat.
They're turning your lived experiences into greatest hits for, would you like, so the other time that they did that was the Sid and Nancy with the Sex Pistols documentary that we kind of liked.
Ooh, I'm trying to remember that.
Not Sid and Nancy, sorry, the Sex Pistols, because the one that had
the
not documentary,
fictionalization, the Steve Jones bio that they kind of made into a Sex Pistols miniseries. Yeah.
So, all right. So what else you got?
I mean, it's been a while. It's already been digested and shat out of the 2-day media cycle. But the Apple Vision Pro, you want to talk about the ski goggles of the future?
Yeah, I can. So I my background is that I was working with VR in 2000 something, 2001, 2002, something like that, right? And before that, a friend came to a show in San Francisco many years ago, the 1990s, and we got to go visit. Remember Nat brought us to SRI, and we got to see like 1995 or maybe even would have been 1990, 1992 or something like that. We got to go to SRI and try on. I remember the helmet and seeing stuff like that, like doing the VR thing. There was like a hand thing too.
And what was it called? The red 3D Game Boy.
Oh, that I don't know about, but yeah, you had
I
a
got that for
VR Game Boy. Okay.
Jim for a present once because they were on clearance at Toys R Us.
So and always there was like so my experience with VR was a kind of a pain in the butt. So there were virtual reality domains at U of I, and I was in charge of one of them. There was the Cube Virtual Boy, Philip Seidner says.
Yeah,
there was the Cube,
Virtual Boy.
Yeah, so there was a 6-sided VR area, and then there was the like the cave was 4-sided. Right, and then there was a 3-sided one called the Canvas in the art museum. And my job, like I worked for a little while in the cave or no, the Cube, sorry, doing like urban planning projects, like data visualization. I remember going with Hank, like on like a demo trip, and I remember him going, "We're in data visualization," and I really liked the way he said that. So. My frustration with VR was that it was very hard to create for, and so by the time I was working at the in the early 2000s in the art museum trying to make VR projects, and really none of the most artists in the College of Fine and Applied Arts did not want to do anything with VR. Most of the faculty who were trying to get their get tenure and stuff or doing other research projects and stuff like that really. No, it was very hard to get people interested in that because everybody had their own thing that they were doing. So I had a couple of people, but then the thing is that when they would have an idea, it would be very hard to program it for them. You'd have to program in OpenGL and C++, right? And that like I had to do that, and then we had an operating system that would run the visual stuff in the cave, and then you just the cube and stuff like that. And it was really hard to create for that. And then we do like the show. Every couple of years there'd be engineering open house. At the Beckman Institute, and then people would come in and you'd show all the little kids, look at the sharks, and they'd put on the the $2,000 or $4,000 headsets and stuff like that. I know I'm boring you, but. And that would mean I'm boring everybody, but
no,
I have all this experience with this, right? So now I have a $300 headset upstairs, like what is it, Optimus Prime or something? What do I have? I don't know what it is. That I've worn twice, maybe, just because I don't have time. I don't know how I'm gonna. It's connected to Facebook. And I just don't have anything. And but the only 2 times that I was ever interested in it was one time I put it on, and Dow put on the Jedi Temple for me, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm in the Jedi Temple. And then I took it off and went back on Facebook on my phone. Then another time that I was interested in it, I remember saying, God, I wish I could. I'd put it on if I could watch a movie on it. Like in the movie was a big screen in front of my face. I mean, why don't people do that? So when the keynote happened, I was like, God, I'm going to have to watch this now because I'm the director of a program, and we're trying to get into VR, and we have people around us who are really, 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 really love VR and think it's time for VR, but I still haven't seen it. And then so I went from right at the beginning of that, I was like, snore, to, oh my God, I could watch a movie on it, because like I could watch a movie on it and then have my other work all over. Like I can organize my desk, and I don't need another monitor taking up space on my desk. I could see a use for these ski goggles. That's all.
Well, yeah, then I guess it's a good thing, because I think that's what it is.
It's a screen.
Yeah, it's just a way of watching stuff and
having
a virtual desktop environment, right, with multiple screens, and you can watch movies. Yeah,
and they're calling it spatial computing, right? I was like, wow, that's a good word for it. So it was like I was in the focus group or something like that. I was like, man, because my first thought was, wow, I'm not going to need to buy if I had this, I wouldn't need to buy another monitor. Like I have a fucking monitor sitting on my desk that I never use. I need to figure out how to plug into it and stuff like that. I wear contacts because I don't want to put glasses on my face. And my contacts hurt and they're a pain in the ass. But yet I put them on just so I don't have anything sitting on my nose. So I'm not going to go out of my way to stick something heavier than glasses on my face and sit there for hours wearing it. But yeah, if I could see that. I like the idea of being able to put the screens wherever I want them and have them spatially organized around my room.
And
what do you think?
Well, yeah, that just to me so that's the thing is I was excited because I thought maybe it would be AR. And in theory, I guess it is because you can see what's out around you. But
yeah,
I'm not interested in internal static kind of like wearing something on your face and being enclosed. And I guess you're not enclosed because you see what else is going on, but you're kind of still in the world. I want augmented reality that overlays on the world. I want Facebook to use facial recognition and invade everyone's privacy and scan everybody I see.
Does that, but you want that.
I want them.
Yeah.
I want something that I can wear that's like a heads-up display, so I can have all of this overlaid in the real world. I can look at somebody. It can tell me their name. You can tell me the last time what I talked to them about.
So like a Google
like
Glass.
the name of their kids. All that kind of stuff. That's what I want. And I don't need another. Yeah, so I was a little bummed out. I mean, I think, yeah. So I didn't have an iPhone moment. I had an Apple Newton moment. It was like, okay. I remember when the Newton came out and I really wanted a Newton and it was super expensive. And then a year or two later, I was able to get an original Apple Newton for $100 or something. Because again, it was like Virtual Boy. It was like, oh, okay. I'll buy that for $100.
I'll buy that for $100.
$1,500.
Right.
It was.
Are our Newtons still upstairs? I have one too.
Yeah, I don't know where they are.
They're in one of those plastic boxes.
I haven't seen them. I think maybe we sold them. They were like first generation Newtons, I think.
Wow. I have a QuickTime VR. I still have the QuickTime VR little. I was going to give it to Graham.
Somebody
Not
just
the eyeball.
Oh, okay. The photo thing,
yeah,
the mount.
Yeah.
Yeah. The eyeball. Somebody just did something with the eyeball web camera. Somebody just built or open sourced and built a system or a way to use that camera. That 20-year-old. What was it called? The eyeball web camera. One of the first web cameras.
No,
not
the
quick
quick
take, but yeah. Somebody.
I called it the eyeball camera in my.
Somebody wrote some software to be able to run it.
That's nice
on a modern machine.
But I mean, so like from a like sustainability point of view, I really like the idea of not having to buy another big screen. I really like that.
Yeah. So this goes back to again actually that class about interaction. Social media. I don't know if you were in that. It was Carrie's class, the other one. Yeah, another one of her classes. And I had an argument with someone about TV. And so this would have been someone, 15 years younger than me at the time. And I was saying, well, TV is like an isolating experience. And they were like, well, I watch TV with my friends. And we hang out and we watch stuff and we talk about it. And it's like, oh, that's right. I watch TV. I don't want to talk to anybody while I'm watching TV. I want to watch the TV. I want to watch the movie. And so it could be a social thing, but this to me feels like, oh, it's not a social thing. It's not an outside world thing. It's just, a screen on your face thing.
Yeah, it's still a screen on your face.
And the thing is Google Cardboard had that. You could watch Netflix, but maybe the higher resolution is better. I never like and I haven't seen the Apple one, but like that experience of watching a virtual screen, kind of movie screen. But maybe it's just because I'm old. And
so the reason that I think now, like I'm intrigued, I'm not like this is bullshit, is first of all, it's kind here's the moment that I had like, I think somebody put me into a game, or I picked up the Wii or something like that. Like you guys all got that Wii, and then you could personalize it. and I was like, all I did, I've played like 2 games in my life. One was just the Wii system, and the other was something else. And you could personalize it. You could choose like the costume. Maybe it was Snapchat or something, right? Like you could personalize it. And I was like, oh, this is fun. And I spent all my time like organizing what it looked like for me.
And this is, I think it's the Hard Fork guys. We're talking about the kind of Zoom, whatever, FaceTime.
Yeah.
Thing where
yes.
it does avatar of you, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have like, so same with the pretend eyes, right? The eyes aren't real, but then it's like your face. And then that was like, oh, that's the killer app, is like, oh yeah. So can you have basically a Snapchat filter on your face? And so then, that's all there you go, is if you can, that to me is the killer app, right? Or something where it's like, oh, you can have your avatar modified face talking to people, and people don't know.
Now you're in the David Foster Wallace
exactly.
veil thing.
Yeah. And so that to me is
from Infinite Jest.
Yeah. That's
I'm saying for other people who haven't
a value or a killer app kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think the organizing a desktop and not having to buy more monitors, just having as many monitors as you want, that's the equivalent of having a DAW, my friend. But you still have something on your face.
Yeah. So this is the thing, is like if we look at your desktop on your Mac, it's going to have 3,000 files, right? It's like a crazy quilt of 3,000 files.
Yeah.
You look at my desktop on a Mac, and there's only one file, right? Or it's the name of the phone, the hard drive.
Yeah, 2 windows. I have 2 Chrome windows open now with more than 30 tabs in each of them.
Yeah.
Right now.
So for me, I don't need more. It's like Trump with his boxes. It's like I don't need 100 boxes around me in my office where I'm putting things in.
But you have a giant screen downstairs.
I do.
You have like a 60, 70-inch monitor for your studio.
55.
It's 55 inch. Okay,
it's
huge.
repurposing the TV.
I
We got a
understand.
new TV. I used the old TV, the old flat screen from over 10 years ago. I'm reusing.
Yeah, you didn't spend $50 and buy another one. Because they're $50. It's just when it breaks, then what are we going to do with it? We're going to have to pay more to get rid of it than we paid originally.
We bought it. That problem existed.
Yes, I understand, but that's what I'm saying, is that when it breaks, when it breaks, then you're going to have to buy another one, or you can.
What
have
I'm
it in
saying is that we bought it in 2010, but we still have it.
Okay.
So, and I'm still using it, and it hasn't broken, and I'll keep using it.
Okay, I'm just saying it's a pain in the butt to get rid of big screens.
Yeah, it is. That's true.
So this would be like, if you had to buy another big screen, you might think about it. And I don't like. My screen is like this because I'm not using a big screen. I have another screen on my desk, but I'm too lazy to plug it in, and I want to go other places. So imagine that Hard Fork guys from the New York Times, not a sponsor, were also talking about this. Wearing that in a coffee shop, like sitting in a coffee shop.
That's true. The guys who have their whole rig on, you just got your virtual rig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
and
you're
I can
traveling,
see that.
you're sitting on a
like
plane.
Mixing. So that's the thing. Is like I almost got. I'm having an issue. I talked to you about this. I rearranged my mixing area.
See, this would never
and
happen to you.
I moved my audio interface from the right side to the left side, and then it's just freaked me out, and I need to move it back to the right side to do volume and monoing and all this switching speakers. I just need to have that on the right side. But then I moved it back to the right side, and somehow in that process of rearranging everything, I don't have enough room or as much freedom to move my mouse as I used to, but it's the same setup. It's like I made the mistake of rearranging, and then I thought, well, if it doesn't work, I'll just put it back. And then when I put it back, I have a huge problem. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to get a touchpad. Maybe I'll get a touchpad to have there instead of the mouse, because that's just a set space that I can move my hand around. Why was I talking about this?
That's the same thing as rearranging screens.
Yeah. So that idea. So the thing is though, as I always remember, is like anytime I do audio work on my laptop, and in fact, I don't do it anymore. It's like, oh, that's why I've always had, or for the past, 20 years, I've had a laptop for audio as my audio studio computer, is because, I'm going to take this somewhere. I'm going to go on a trip. I'm going to go up to Chicago. I'll bring my laptop and I'll work on my audio stuff on the laptop. But anytime I use just the one laptop instead of having my big setup, I feel like stupid and I can't get anything done. So I could see the promise if you've always got the goggles and you're always working with the goggles, and then no matter where you go, you can be at Starbucks or in your basement studio and it's all the same setup. I guess I could see the value in that.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it. I actually don't. It did help me convince me once again not to buy the touchpad, the remote touchpad, the Magic Touch. What is it called? They have a specific name for it. Not touchpad. Magic.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. But the other thing about this is that, like what I was saying earlier when I was boring everybody, is how hard it was to create for VR. And with artificial intelligence.
Yeah. And so this is all about content and watching content. I feel like the web already does that. Phones already do that. You got the goggles on your face that do that. I feel like the augmented reality shit where it's like the overlay. I want the overlay. I'm walking around the world and I've got a constant overlay.
So the integration
that
of
invades
the data
everyone's
layer,
privacy.
You want the integration of data layer a little bit more integrated than your phone.
A lot more integrated.
So you know what?
Like I want to be able to look through my glasses.
You need to,
right?
You need
and I want to
Snapchat.
see. It's Terminator vision, right? Or it's
yeah.
Robotron, RoboCop vision. That's what I want. I want RoboCop. I want Terminator.
Terminator vision.
Yeah,
along with all of the assembler language.
Yeah. Maybe I could program. Maybe I could. Yeah, that would be great. Or if I got keywords that every time now, because I'm old, I'm trying to find a word that fits. It's just like a constant running thesaurus.
ChatGPT is perfect for that for me.
So you have the constant ChatGPT. It's tracking what you're saying, and it's giving you suggestions off in the corner on what to say.
It's on your phone right now, and you always have your phone with you.
But you have to look at your phone.
Yeah.
You can't look at another person.
While you're looking at your phone.
If you had these goggles and your fake eyeballs and you're staring at the person and it's showing you a bunch of stuff while you're walking through the grocery store and you're talking.
The hard fork guys like the eyeballs. That weird.
And so, if it can do that, that would be great. But that requires somebody to make a commitment to basically violating what's left of privacy, which is like I want to be able to scan a room and get everybody's information, and when I'm at a fucking Love and Rockets concert and I see someone and I think it's that person, but I'm not 100% sure it's that person because I'm an old man. It's like, oh, maybe it's just somebody who looks like somebody I knew 20 years ago. Like instead, I have a readout on my glasses that says, "Oh, that's this."
I think
Daniel Ash is playing has a Trace Elliott cabinet and a JC 120, and I can go look up those while I'm watching Love and Rockets play. It sounds awful.
Google Glass didn't do that.
Didn't do it very well, and they screwed up. That was definitely like a Newton.
But Google
kind of
Lens,
thing.
so Google.
Google. I think that's
Google Lens.
That's what's going to be the name of this. The advertising that gets
blue ball. So Google Lens, if you haven't used that on your phone, and Apple phone users can use that too. That is amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
So this type of thing, this is why you got to pay close attention to your youngest, because yesterday we were driving, and I was going to pick up his friends. And he's like, no, you got to pick this person up first, and the other person, blah blah blah, and stuff, And I was like, no, you don't understand. And he was like, then I looked at his phone, and he's got Snapchat, and he's got Snapchat has a picture of a map of where he is and his friends where they are, which I think is the coolest thing in the world.
It's also super scary.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing, is right. Everybody just kind of
it was happening in succession
we don't
too.
we don't want anyone tapping our phones, or we don't want want people putting microphones in our house, and then all of a sudden it's like, Siri and
Alexa, order me a coffee. From
exactly.
Starbucks.
And it's like we drop our pants.
Order me my usual.
If it's the tech we want, we drop our pants immediately, right? It's like
Rich just said drop our pants.
Screw privacy. I don't care. And that's what I'm looking for. in an augmented reality moment where it's just like, and
That's what
it's already
you'll drop
happening
your
with
pants for.
Snapchat. It's already happened with Snapchat where I'm just like horrified that everybody I know would be able to track me, even though basically all I do is sit inside this house, right? But then they would know. They would know. Oh,
So,
Rick,
and then the other thing
wow,
with Google
you know what?
Lens,
Rick's been in his basement for 7 days. Yeah.
the other thing is with Google Lens, like he'll be like, "Oh, what kind of car is that?" And you just point your
Yeah.
phone at
No,
that.
I understand all that.
anything.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not talking
Yeah.
to you. I'm talking to the other 4 people who are listening.
Yeah, so having that built into your glasses, it's just constantly going. You're able to process everything. Then on top of it, you look at, I don't know, you go to a store. You you're driving down the street and you look at a store and it shows you, how much a cookie, like a Hostess cherry pie costs there, and it's like, okay, oh, it's cheap there. Well, yeah, that's the way to do it, is advertising.
So
has this been happening before? I need to know this. So Google Maps, I noticed the other day when I was looking at Google Maps, all of a sudden there was like a picture, an Arby's, and instead of having the old-fashioned, the Google pin, the blob, the teardrop, the upside-down teardrop, it had an Arby's logo, and it said 2 for 1, Meat Busters or something, underneath it on Google Maps. It's like, so has that been happening? I just never noticed it
got some
before?
advertising.
Or
Maybe you can turn that off in your Google preferences.
Because to me, it seems like that should have been something that's been happening for decades, right? With Google, or however long Google Maps has been around. But it's like, did I just notice it? Or is it something new where it's like all these brands are now paying for advertising within Google Maps? And I was like,
well, you're going to need that in order to drop your pants to find out whether or not there's eggs at the store.
It's a privacy thing. Everyone is horrified of the idea that, I'm like, Rick's going to walk into a room with a pair of glasses. It's going to scan the room and get everyone's face and get everyone's name.
I don't think anybody's horrified about that.
Well, people are,
Okay.
In theory.
And you are too.
A little bit, but it's also be really helpful. So that's and who's going to do that? Is Apple going to do? I don't think Apple's going to do that because they're making all these puppet noises about privacy now. So it's like, but Facebook didn't do it either. Facebook should have done it, right? They're the most likely to violate the privacy of every human on the planet, right? 2 billion.
Meta?
How many? Yeah, Meta. Yeah.
So are all these okay?
But,
so
but
like
now it's,
back to Succession.
You can sit and play tiddlywinks with your grandpa. That's like how they sold it, as opposed to like, your grandpa now can look at all his grandchildren and remember their names. That's what Meta should have done. But there's like, why the hell would I want to wear a pair of goggles to play tiddlywinks with a 5-year-old?
So let me ask you this, bringing it all back to Succession. My idea, like I haven't finished watching it yet, but I've decided that the old man does not die, and because he's not a real person, he's the embodiment of greed,
Yes,
and all of his children are. And so I'm going to ask you: is Facebook, Google, and Apple, are those like the 3 children of the idea of greed
wow. Yeah,
in the
that's
United
interesting.
or in the world?
Yeah.
And if they could only just work together.
So the children in Succession are each one of the social media platforms?
No, I'm saying all the social media platforms are like the children of Succession.
Oh, right. Yeah, maybe.
I'm saying.
And so please, no one talk about Succession, because Rose is at the beginning of season 4, so she's has no idea what's happening.
I haven't really been on Facebook lately either. Good. Oh, okay. Maybe he will die. I don't know. I guess. And so Kim, you need to, or I think it was Kim who was saying, I need to get on the Succession bandwagon. Yes, it was Kim. Yeah. It's good. I'm enjoying it. It's fun to have something to do after your work and stuff, like to watch the TV set. But I'm watching it on my computer. Yeah, I like it.
But you could, for $3,500,
I could be watching it
on your face.
Thanks for listening. They could be watching us on their face too.